Soak the gun in water, then roll it in the sand and aim it. The guns we tested were either jammed, or they can't expel the shells. In this gun competition, only one gun passed the test. This gun is the AK-47, and the designer of this gun, a soldier who didn't even graduate from junior high school. His name is Kalashnikov. Originally he was a tank driver, but he was accidentally wounded in a battle. When he woke up again, he was in a lorry full of wounded. On the way to the field hospital, the truck suddenly got stuck in the mud again. A bunch of wounded men with no arms and legs. There was no way to push the truck out. The captain and Carla had to go to a nearby village to get help. The captain and Carla had to go to a nearby village for help. As soon as they entered the village, they ran into an ambush of German soldiers. The captain shot 2 of them, just as he killed the 3rd German soldier. When he shot the 3rd German soldier, his machine gun jammed. The German shot him in the chest. Luckily, Carla was able to shoot the German at the right moment, but the captain was also spared. On their way back, Carla examined the gun. She took it apart and found that the gun was waterlogged. The internal spring was frozen. When it gets cold, it jams. A gun like this would only kill more soldiers on the battlefield. After treatment, Carla's wound was almost healed. The doctor gave him leave to go home and recuperate, so he took the train home. The whole train was full of wounded men. From talking to the veterans, most of the wounded here, they'd had problems with firearms in the war, so he took out a drawing of a gun. He told the veterans his dream was to design an automatic rifle. The veteran, who had both arms broken, was thrilled. He encouraged Carla to stick to her dream, so that fewer men would have to die on the battlefield. Inspired, Carla jumped off the train halfway. He was determined to build the gun he had designed. Carla went to the engine station where he had worked before. He told the station master about his idea. He wanted to build a gun. It would reduce the number of casualties at the front and end the war sooner. But the station master said,
"Вали нахрен отсюда!"
After being rejected, Carla was frustrated. Just as he was about to give up, suddenly, he heard some soldiers chatting. A general is coming to inspect the work today. When he heard that, Carla ran to the train. He told the general about his idea for a gun. In the end, thanks to his shamelessness, Carla managed to get a letter of introduction. The station master had no choice. The station master had no choice but to give Carla a workshop. That's how Carla started to build his own gun. He drew a rough model of the gun by hand, but with an injured arm, he couldn't operate the machine. He went back to the station master and asked for a couple of staff, but the station master refused. But the workers who heard the news spontaneously came to help Carla. The workers worked day and night. Everything went according to plan. Finally, the world's first AK was born. No one could have imagined that this handmade rifle would become the king of guns. And the next step was to test the gun's performance. The man raises his rifle and fires a single shot. The bullet easily pierces the bucket. Then a series of rounds instantly shattered the bucket into a sieve. The workers turn the bucket over and remove the bullets. The bullets are evenly loaded. Looking at the result, Carla was confident. He was so excited that he asked to see the commissar. But the guards at the gate saw that he was carrying a gun. They locked him up. They took away his gun. The guards handed the gun to the major. The major looked at the handmade gun. He was very curious, so he took the gun to the shooting range to test it. But the results were a shock to the major. The rifle was not only easy to use, it was also very accurate. The major immediately released Carla. The major told the firearms genius that in order for the rifle to be mass-produced, he had to participate in the National Weapons Design Competition. Only guns that pass the military's tests can be mass-produced. In order to enter the competition, the major told the general. The general was curious, so he went to the shooting range to test the gun's power. The general was shocked by the results. He wrote a letter of recommendation to Carla. He asked him to represent his district in a weapons competition. In 1943, Kara represented his district. Kara came to Moscow to participate in the competition. There was not only a separate office and a beautiful female assistant. Here Carla redrew the drawings and made improvements. But in the first round of the competition, Carla's gun was eliminated. This failure taught Carla to achieve a bright result in this competition. He had to put in more sweat and effort, so he began to work day and night. Finally, with his tireless efforts, a new machine gun was born. The second round of judging began. Carla's machine gun did very well, and he was confident. But it turns out, none of the machine guns met the requirements for combat. After 2 failures, Kara was desperate. He decided to return to the Eastern Front. He went to the medic. He begged the medic to give him a clean bill of health, but after the doctor's examination, his arm had not recovered. The doctor refused his request. Carla had tears in her eyes, but there was nothing she could do. In 1945, Germany surrendered unconditionally. World War II was finally over. Everyone was celebrating, but Carla was lost. The war was over. It meant he didn't have to study firearms anymore. All those years of work seemed like a joke. Disillusioned, Kara took his gun to the leader. He told him he wanted to go home, but he handed him a secret document. It says that although the war is over, but the army would always be equipped with the most advanced weapons. That's how Kara was retained. He had a separate research department. From then on, Kara's focus was on research. He began to learn from his previous failures. He wanted to improve his rifle. After 2 competitions, he realized that the design of firearms must be simple. Finally, 2 years later, the first AK-47s were produced. Carla was excited. She couldn't wait to test the gun, but when she arrived at the test range, she was told that the general was using it. It would be a few days before they could test it. But Carla, anxious, he didn't want to wait a second. He went straight to the camp. And drew marks on the barrels. The soldier drew a circle on the barrel. Then he raises a rifle. This is the first test of the king of rifles, the AK-47. Carla looked at the gun in her hand with great satisfaction, but the sound of a loud shot attracted the soldiers. Carla was arrested, but Carla was very happy, because the king of rifles in his heart had finally been built. Because Carla had violated the law by testing the rifle, he was taken to the general's office. The general was also a famous weapons designer. He was the one who made the gun, the chicken. The general didn't blame Carla. On the contrary, he was curious. What kind of gun had Carla designed, so that he would test it in violation of the rules? So Carla took the general to the weapons room. He took out his rifle and disassembled it in front of the general. Looking at the parts on the table, the general quickly reassembled the gun. Looking at the rifle in his hand, he was completely impressed. He didn't even test it himself. He said to his assistant,
Эта конструкция перспективнее. Конструкция старшего сержанта Калашникова гораздо перспективнее.
Товарищ генерал, а что делать с вашим образцом?
Чтоб никто не видел.
Soon, the annual weapons design competition begins again. In order to test what might be encountered in actual combat, competing guns are tested by soaking them in water and buried in sand. Under this real-life simulation, all the other guns in the competition have problems. Either they are jammed by water or malfunctioned in the sand. Only the AK-47 designed by Kara, whether it's soaked in water or rolled in the sand, the AK-47 still maintains its accuracy and stability. Whether it's a point and shoot or a burst, the AK-47 was always on target. Kara finally won the championship, and the AK-47 was finally mass-produced. In 1949, Kara was awarded Stalin's Order of Merit and was invited to Moscow for a military parade. His rifle became the standard weapon of the Soviet Army, and the gun was named Kalashnikov 1947, AK-47 for short. Seeing the gun he designed being widely used, Kalashnikov's heart was full of satisfaction. He was only 28 years old. From 1947 to the present, the AK-47 has been used by armies all over the world. Although Carla's design was intended for peace, the AK-47 kills at least 300,000 people a year. The AK-47 is now the world's deadliest gun, the gun that kills the most people in the world. But there's nothing wrong with the weapon itself. It's the person who uses it that's wrong. Just like a knife, some people use it to fight for justice, others use it to kill and burn people.